The school system is actually teaching people to be poor. The school system will never teach you about money. The school system was designed to teach you to be an employee or a doctor or a lawyer, a specialist, but never about money. My father was the head of education, PhD, all that stuff. I go home and ask him, said, why don't we learn about money in school? And he looked at me and said, because the government doesn't let us teach that subject. The government tells us what we can teach and what we can't teach. And I thought that was strange. And I said, but aren't we going to school to learn about money? He says, no, your job is to get a job. Poverty is passed on. It's taught in your families. And middle class is taught in families. And so the people right now who are sitting at home, who are struggling financially or worried about money or unhappy, they may be making a lot of money, but unhappy with what they're doing, it was probably taught to you. You know, your superego was taught, get a job, work hard, or you'll never be rich, or the rich are evil, or whatever.
And until you change your mindset,
Correct.
Money won't help you, right?
Correct.
And we see that with people that win the lottery, people that make more money, they still have the same problem.
Right.
Because they have that poor man's soul.
Correct. If you're poor, you'll always be poor.
That's really hard for people to understand.
Yeah, the money will disappear that fast. Just like most pro athletes, they make millions of dollars, and but 65% are bankrupt 5 years later. It's because they come from poor families. Now, you tell them that, they get very angry at you. It's not, it's the rich fault. It's you guys ripped me off, and government ripped me off. But unfortunately, what Mr. Lipton was saying, it's passed down genetically. The moment I pay you, you think like an employee. That's the trap. Entrepreneurs work for free. The moment you accept the paycheck, your brain goes dead. As long as you're hungry, you'll think. You see people say, well, why don't you give the poor money? So the only problem with that is it just creates more poor people.
Give a man a fish, he fishes for the day, or eats for the day.
Yeah, you give a man a fish, you get a lot of people who want more fish, Well, you teach them to fish.
But you are the Robin Hood of knowledge, because I see you giving this knowledge out, and
yeah.
Do the rich people cringe and say, don't tell them that, Robin?
Yes. Don't tell people what you know. Right. Keep them poor. Poor will always be amongst us, because it starts up here. It's in their words, and the words become flesh. When they say, I can't afford it, or I can't do that, they go down. They become what they say. And I meet so many people, I can't afford it. You think I'm made of money? My PhD dad, he says, what do you think I am, made of money? I can't afford that. And my rich dad would say, that's why he's poor. Poor people say, I can't afford it, I can't do that, I don't have time. Because it's an escape. It's an escape. You know what I mean? It's easy to say, I can't afford it. Oh, I'm too tired. Oh, I can't go to the gym. When you could go to the gym. No, I can't. Truth is, I'm just too lazy to go to the gym.
And you play it safe, and you don't introduce new risks into your life. And so
I have job security.
Right. And your rich dad used to say what instead of, I can't afford it?
How can I afford it? How can I do that? What would it take, or why should I do that? A question opens the mind, a statement closes the mind. So when you say, I can't afford it, your mind shuts down, and you become what you say. People say, well, money is not that important to me. Then if money is not that important to you, money is not important to you. You know what I mean? I don't care about money. The money doesn't care about you. The word does become flesh. Or I'll never be rich. Or the favorite one is the rich are greedy. It's the poor that are greedy. If you think about it, because to be rich, you have to give something. I have to produce books and games, and I purchase real estate, I provide housing, provide jobs and all that. That's why I'm rich. But greedy people produce nothing. Oh, no, it's the rich that are greedy. And I'm going, hey, sports fans, you point a finger forward, 3 are pointing backwards. And so, as we know, there's a big attitude problem against the rich today. We all have fear. To be truthful, we all have fear. It's just how you deal with it. Einstein said, imagination is more important than knowledge. But knowledge empowers imagination. And what most people lack is real business knowledge, like accounting, like debt, like taxes. You got to know that stuff. But they don't teach it in school to anybody. People who are afraid of making mistakes like they teach in school, they don't ever grow. Because spirituality is there's good and there's bad. There's right and there's wrong. There's up and there's down. Most people only want to be right. They only want to be positive. Well, you can't have that. That's not reality. Every time I failed, it was like, goodness, okay, what have I learned? And the average person, the reason they're poor is they haven't failed. They play it so safe. They haven't made any mistakes like they're taught in school. That means they don't learn anything. That's why the school system's actually fundamentally corrupt. It's anti-education. And I think what most people do is they let their parents or their friends talk them out of life. So afraid of failing. But failing is how we succeed. Our schools punish you for making mistakes. That's why we have so many people who are so afraid of admitting they make mistakes or afraid of failing.
As I started off with no money like most people. My first investment was a little $18,000 condo in Hawaii, and I made a whopping $25 a month. I didn't make much money on that deal, but every time I did an investment, be it real estate or business, I got smarter because experience makes you smarter. So I started with just a little $18,000 unit. I broke out my credit card. I paid the $2,000 down payment with my credit card, so it was 100% finance. Now, most experts will say you, that's stupid. You don't do that. But if you know what you're doing, you can do it. A number of years ago, I bought a $7 million commercial building. I paid for it with zero down. And every month, after everything is paid for, it puts about $30,000 a month income in my pocket, or $360,000 a year for no money down. So that is the price of having a good education or a bad education. A good education is knowing the good debt versus bad debt and how debtors can win if you know what you're doing.
I don't know what the heck with people think about money, but that's what I get a lot of is kind of this, money's not spiritual. I'm just saying it's your attitudes, a person's attitude towards money. I make a lot of money, but I give a lot. You know what I mean? It goes to biblical principle, the more you give, the more you receive. So when I meet somebody who's doesn't have any money, it just means they're not giving something.
Yeah.
So a lot of times there's people who would like more, but they're not giving anything.
Yeah.
So they're like my poor dad. He belonged to the labor unions, and he wanted to work less and get paid more. Well, that's anti-religious to me.
Yeah.
If you want to get paid more, work more, give more. That's how I see it.
Discipline I had to get into was I always pay myself first, even when I had no money. And when I have all these bill collectors calling me, I use them as inspiration. You know what I mean?
Really?
Oh, when they're hounding, the government's hounding you, bill collectors calling, because I've been broke, so I can understand what it feels like to be broke. When those guys are calling you, instead of shrinking and going into the shell and eating my pizza,
Yeah.
I use it as motivation to go out and make more money. So I use my bill collectors as motivation. And that's why I paid myself first, even though sometimes I wasn't paying.
What would you pay yourself?
I always bought assets. I'd buy a house or I'd put money in the bank and things like this. But it was just a habit. Exactly what you're talking about. It's up here.
It's about changing the way you think.
You see,
That's what the whole book is about.
That's it. Because we're our biggest asset, we're also our biggest liability. But the common wisdom, the old intelligence idea is to diversify. And what I believe in is something else, is increase your financial IQ, your financial intelligence, and instead focus. And what focus stands for is this. Focus is follow one course till you're successful. And so that's what I did in 1973. I signed up for my first real estate investment course. And I just did it and did it and did it. I bought this one little $18,000 place. And I did it again, and I did it again, and I did it again until the point where I understood it. And then I went into becoming an entrepreneur. And I did it, and I did it, and did it. And I'm still learning. And I'm still learning about real estate. And the reason, in 1966, I got into oil when I went to work for the Standard Oil Company. So today, I'm still focusing. I invest in oil and oil and oil. And I don't diversify. it doesn't mean I don't lose. Sometimes I'm lose, sometimes I make mistakes and all this. But I just don't buy good as with all the bad. If you're going to be successful as an investor, diversification is good for the average investor. If that's what you want to be, have a good life. But what I'd rather do is be able to know the good ones from the bad ones, the good investments from the bad investments, the good advisors from the bad advisors, and what's good for me and what's not good for you. Because what I do is not necessarily what's going to work for you and vice versa here. So that's why I really think instead of diversification or diversifying, the new rules of money say follow one course until you're successful and then keep doing it. Because once you find that way of being successful, you can do it again and again and again.
The thing is, you see, when people, economies go up, economies go down, we might go into a depression worldwide. Like I said, France is in very big trouble. Germany's okay. England's in big trouble. China's in trouble. So if we go that, we go to a worldwide depression, and it might take 10 years, to come out of it. But during these times, this is the best time. I have made more money in the last 3 years than ever before in my life. I bought five golf courses last year. Out of bank.
That's impressive.
Yeah. Well, the bank.
Courses.
Yeah, Donald bought 10. They're giving them away.
No one told me.
Yeah, but you have to know how to operate them. You have to be an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
So the banks just call you up and they say that there was 5 golf courses and 1 hotel.
In the States?
In Arizona, yeah, golf mecca,
Arizona.
And this Japanese company had it, and they asked me if I wanted to buy it about 5 years ago for $260 million. And I said, doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense at $260 million. So they told me I didn't know what I was doing. They said, okay, buy. And then 1 year ago, this summer, the Citibank called up and says, you want those golf courses? And they gave me the money to buy them.
And just to reiterate, was in approximately 1975, I came out with this product, and we were extremely successful. But we kept running out of money. The more successful we got, the more we ran out of money. So that's when I went to my rich dad, and I tried to borrow $100,000, and he chewed me out. He says, why would I invest in a dumb product when you have a bad business? And so that's when he began teaching me the next level of my entrepreneurial education. It's not about the product, it's about how to design a business that doesn't need me to keep raising the capital. In other words, how do you design a business that keeps raising money automatically? And today the Rich Dad company is cash rich. Cash keeps pouring in because the ability to raise money constantly was designed into the business. And once again, this is the diagram. This is the BI triangle. These are the 8 pieces that make up a business. When a business is hurting, oftentimes it's because one of these 8 pieces is missing. For example, many times people say, I have a great product, but their legal is really bad, or their communication systems are bad, or their audit, their internal order processing is bad, or the manufacturing is bad, or the marketing is bad, or they have bad cash flow management. Another part of your financial IQ is to know there's 3 types of income. So if you're going to say work hard, most people are working hard for earned income, and that's what these guys are working for. The trouble with earned income in America, your tax rate's approximately 50%. Whereas Warren Buffett says it's a shame that his secretary pays a higher percentage in taxes than he did, although he makes billions of dollars. So when you say to a child, go to school and get a safe, secure job, you tell them to work for earned income, the worst type of income. The second type of income is portfolio income. And today, as I speak, and they're trying to change this, it's about 20%. And portfolio income is generally known as capital gains. So if I buy a stock for $10 and I sell it for $50, the $40 gain is taxed at 20%. Or if I buy a house for $100,000 and I sell it for $200,000, that's a capital gains type event. So you pay a lot of tax for that. And the third type of income, which is the best type of income, excuse me, I can't spell again, is passive income. And this is income that just comes in on a regular basis. One of the reasons I am wealthy and is able to retire at a young age is because I worked hard for passive income, not earned income, I don't flip real estate generally, not portfolio income. I don't flip stocks. I want passive income. So today, the new rules of money, it's important to understand what are you going to school to become, ES, entrepreneur or investor, and what kind of income you're working hard for, earned, portfolio, or passive. And if you know what you're doing, you can pay 0% taxes legally. And this can be done all over the world. People say, we can't do it in my country. Well, these people can't do it in any country, but in most parts of the world, governments need these people. So they're always giving tax incentives for investors and business owners who are for passive income. So those are some of the new rules of money. You've really got to know what you're working hard at and what kind of work are you performing, what kind of income are you working hard for.
Well, most successful entrepreneurs have gone bust. Right?
Yeah.
You know, Henry Ford, an old-time entrepreneur, he went bust 5 times. Okay, look at Steve Jobs.
Yep.
His own board fired him.
Yep.
You know, Bill Gates was taken before the Supreme Court for monopolistic practices.
Right.
Even my friend Donald Trump went down $1 billion.
Yeah.
I only went down $1 million. So the average person is so afraid of those losses, they never get ahead. Because at school they teach you if you make a mistake or if you fail, you're a failure. But that's not real life. A baby learns to walk by standing up and falling down, standing up and falling down. And our school system punishes you for making mistakes. That's why my poor dad, an academic, was so unsuccessful. He was terrified of making mistakes. The key to raising money, this is Ken McElroy's company, it's called MC Companies. Ken McElroy's business is in the business of acquiring assets. That's why his company gets richer and richer and richer. Every year he adds probably 1,000 new apartment units to his inventory. So Ken's company gets richer and richer because MC Company is designed to increase assets. Poorly designed businesses never have any assets. They have huge liabilities. And I trust that makes sense to you. So Ken McElroy's business gets stronger and stronger and stronger because every year he's increasing more assets. The Rich Dad company gets stronger and stronger and stronger because every year we add more assets. This year we're adding franchising to our mix. We're also, Rich Brother, Rich Sister, the book has come out. We come out with the real book of real estate, et cetera, et cetera. And every one of those products every year continues to send money into our product. So that's an idea of a well-designed business. If you have a well-designed business, I don't care if it's for real estate or making, cash flow board games. If it's well-designed, investors will give money to you because this is a well-designed business.
I think the big mistake is I hear so many people say it's important to save. That's ridiculous. And the reason that's ridiculous is because what happened in 1971 is crucial. In 1971, the U.S. dollar stopped being money. In 1971, the U.S. dollar became a currency. And what that meant is Richard Nixon, in 1971, the president, took us off the gold standard. That's like giving an alcoholic free rein to the bar, or it's like giving somebody who can't control their spending unlimited credit cards. So what's happening is all the savers today are losers. The problem with 1971 is that the federal government keeps printing money, so the value of your money keeps going down. So these people, I'm saving, and if you notice, as the value of the dollar goes down, prices go up. So they call this inflation. You look at in 1997, oil was about, I think, $10 a barrel. 10 years later, it's about $135 a barrel. So they say it's inflation, but really what it is the dollar's value coming down. So savers are getting wiped out today. So just keep saying to yourself and to your kids to save money, that is not the new rule. That's an old rule. So a very big problem for most people is stop using the word save and use the word hedge. You've got to hedge your money, hedge against losses. Like when I buy a stock, I put a hedge in. I put a stop loss or a put inside of it or a call, whatever I'm doing, I want to stop it. So today, I don't save money, I'm hedging. So in 1997, I started investing in oil, gold, and silver. So as a dollar dropped, oil, gold, and silver went up. So I'm not betting so much on oil, gold, and silver. I'm betting against the U.S. dollar. And that's why this idea that you're going to tell people you need to save money, that's really, really an obsolete idea, because the idea went obsolete in 1971. The U.S. dollar in the last few years has lost almost 80% of its purchasing power. And the prediction is, because this has happened throughout history, it happened thousands of years ago with the Romans, with the Greeks, with the Germans, with the English, the Japanese, and the Chinese. Every time they've made money into a currency, something you could print at unlimited, every time that has happened, the currency has gone to its true value, which is zero. So I am afraid as this economic volatility continues, the savers who were operating by the old rules of money are just going to get wiped out because the purchasing power of their dollar is going to go down. So even if the bank's paying you 5 to 10% interest, you can't keep up with the banks printing money. So that's the old rule of money, is saving money, and the new rule is hedge. You've got to be able to see what's coming up as something else is coming down.
You wake up tomorrow morning and you're on the street and you have nothing. You don't have a single contact in your network. All you have is the knowledge and experience that you've had throughout your career. How do you build up from there?
Well, I've been there many times. So it's no big deal. You just figure out what's needed and wanted and you go do it. You know, people always kind of dump on, fast food industry. If I had to do it again, I'd go work for McDonald's. And the reason I go work for McDonald's, you know, whether it's $7 an hour or 15, I don't really care. I don't really like McDonald's food, but they have the best business systems in the world. You know, how else can a company take virtually non-college educated people and build a fast food industry across the world? And they have the best system. So right inside little McDonald's, you can learn everything you need to learn about business except for the management side of it. So I just go work at McDonald's so I can learn even more. So I look at life as learning. I'm constantly learning. You know, I'm reading constantly, studying constantly. I spend most of my time with entrepreneurs. I don't spend my time with people who complain about the economy, you know. So nothing will really change. I just go back to being an entrepreneur. Entrepreneurs have one thing in common. They keep going. They'll change the rules. They'll reinvent the rules. You know, they don't just take one answer. So a real entrepreneur, it really makes no difference which country you're in. That's my belief. You know, I
love that.
You know what I mean? It's just a mindset. You know, it's F you. You mess with me, I'll find a way around it. You know, I have a friend, he's multi-family rich guy from France. And, you know, France is as communistic as it gets.
75% top line for $1 million earners.
Yeah, but that's why he lives here. So he started buying vineyards in Napa and Sonoma. So he went back to the French government and he says, it's his wine. He says, I want to ship my wine in bulk to California. And the government says, you can't do that. So
this
what?
Is the French government saying you can't ship.
Yeah, and here's a guy, I think he's 5 generations, you know, French wine guy. This guy is an entrepreneur. He says, okay, I can't ship him in barrels. The guy goes, yeah. He says, okay, I'll ship him in bottles. So he bottled all of his stuff. It cost him more money, but he still figured out how to do it. Do you know what I mean? And now he has his wine with his California wine and all this. And so he went back to the French government and said, here, try this. See if it's not better. And so now they're all confused because he didn't break any rules. So I'll say it again. Entrepreneur is a mindset first, a skill set, and rules. And depending upon whether you're an employee or a small business, the rules are different. The mindsets are different. The skill sets are different. I am very shy. Very, very shy. You know, I came back from Vietnam and I could kill people, but I couldn't talk to people. And one day I said to when I decided to follow my rich dad's footsteps, I just said to him, I want to be an entrepreneur. He says, you got one problem. I said, what's that? I said, you're shy. I said, what's wrong with being shy? He says, you got to sell. You got to handle rejection. Number one skill. Can you handle rejection? Answer is no, I couldn't handle it. So I said, I still want to learn how to sell. So this was in 1973, I was 25 years old. And my rich dad said, how's your love life? I said, it sucks. He said, you getting laid? I said, no. He says, because you can't sell. Guys got it? So when I talk about what skill do you need, when the shit hits the fan, you better start selling. So I went to work for Xerox in 1974 so I could learn how to sell. It took me 4 years. Then I was number one. Okay? And today I'm a best-selling author. You know, most PhDs tell me I can't write. Yes, I said I can't write, but I can sell. If you can't sell, you don't make money, period. End of statement. You know, just because you have a product doesn't mean jack shit. But the important thing is you start. You know, I don't care what product you start with, but you start. You know, I started off with nylon wallets. Success wiped me out. You know, we couldn't sell, and all of a sudden it took off. Then I couldn't finance because the sales kept going through the roof. Now, trouble is I kept borrowing and I couldn't sustain the sales. Next lesson. But that's how we learn. Okay? Yes, I'm one of those kids that don't like school. You know, school is good for people who like school. But here was my poor dad, head of education, PhD, on the governor's board of Hawaii and all this stuff, and his kid, me, and I'm flunking out of school because I can't read, I can't write. And I said I couldn't read, I couldn't write. I was bored out of my mind, you know. I was just, hey. So what I did instead was that's when I met my rich dad, who was my best friend's father, and he used these things called a game. See, games are the best teaching tools. See, when I'm playing this game, this is how the rich taught their kids battle strategies called chess. My rich dad taught me to be a rich man playing Monopoly. We played Monopoly hour after hour after hour. You know, the formula for great wealth of Monopoly is 4 greenhouses, 1 red hotel. So today in Arizona, I own 8,000 greenhouses and several red hotels. I just play Monopoly for real. So that's the power of a game, because a game engages me mentally, physically, because I actually have to move things, emotionally, because when somebody knocks me out, I better wake up. You know, I made a mistake. And spiritually, because it's spirit that wins. You know, if you just saw Golden State play the oh, you know, everybody's, I mean, I love LeBron James, I love Cleveland, you know, but one guy cannot take on a team. And I think LeBron scored 60% of all the points in assists and all that, but a better team beat him. So when you look at business is the same thing. Business is a team sport. I have to have good accountants, good attorneys, good marketing guys, good tech guys, great staff. I have to have great leaders, you know. The trouble with most entrepreneurs are self-employed. So they quit their job. And, you know, in America today, the SBA, the Small Business Administration, says there's 28 million small business owners. 28 million. 24 million are classified as non-employers. Remember, they're a one-man team. You know, they'd be like this guy say, okay, I'm going to take you on. Are you crazy? But that's what most entrepreneurs are trying to do. Because that's what they're taught to do in school, to be the rugged individual. You know, in school, I was very successful as long as I could cooperate at test time. But in school, cooperation at test time is called cheating. In the real world, the guys that have the biggest team win. So all I focus on is putting the best team together. Meanwhile, a lot of the time, the A students in school, they're the doctors and lawyers, they're sitting there all by themselves. They're sitting ducks, but they're entrepreneurs. Do you know what I mean? It's just a mindset, tactics, strategy. I went to military school. I'm a former Marine. So I think like a military operation, which I love chess. So most entrepreneurs, they have this job, and they go, okay, I'm going to be an entrepreneur. And this guy's just massacre him.
That's very good.
Because they went to school, they learned to get a job, and they take tests on their own. They have to be the smartest. That's like the LeBron James. I don't want to be the smartest guy on my team, but I want to have the best team. Mm-hmm. And that's why I win most of my games.
That's great.
I think like this, and the doctors think like this. I'm going, yeah, I got you, man. For some reason, I get the sense I'm going to win.
That's right.
So the other thing with when people say live below your means, you don't like to live below your means, do you?
No.
No. And I think when you say to somebody, live below your means, you wipe their spirit out. It's like saying to somebody, if you want to lose weight, go on a starvation diet. It doesn't make you healthier to starve yourself. So I would rather get financially educated. That's why I read your books, because this is my greatest asset. I want to feed my brain so that I can expand my means without getting into excessive debt or where I start to lose. Because debt, like I say, is a two-edged sword. But telling somebody to live below your means is almost inhumane. I never felt good doing it. I wanted to strive to do better every day. I want to do better every day. I liked a good life. Like I tell the story of taxiing underneath your jet. I was in my jet, but it was a little Learjet. And I look up and there's a 727, and I taxi under it. I said, holy mackerel. It's big boys and their toys, but nonetheless, it inspired me. I said, okay, I'm in a Learjet now. It's time to step up. And it doesn't mean the jet will make me happier. What makes me happier is the wanting to get better, to get smarter, to do better.
If you did not have the rich dad in your life, what would you be doing today?
It's hard to say if I didn't have my rich dad, because as a young kid, starting at probably about the age of 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, I really wanted to be rich. So I think number one is desire, and then you naturally seek your role models and teachers. And in my lifetime, I've had multiple rich dads. My rich dad was my best friend's father starting at the age of 9. And then today, I still seek mentors and wise men and wise women, because that's how you get wiser, is by hanging out with smart people.
Everyone says finding good real estate is hard when you're getting started. What's the value of good network and good partnerships?
Well, I'll say it again. In 1973, I came back from Vietnam, and I was a pilot out there. And I took a real estate course. It was $385, 3 days long. And that was a lot of money back then. I was only making $500 a month, so $385 was all I had. And the instructor at the end of the program said to me, he said, or to the whole class of about 30 of us, he says, your education begins now that you leave the class. You didn't get educated while the class. So his assignment was that everybody, or 30 of us, we had to pair up in team, get up in teams, two or three at a team, and we had to look at 100 properties in 90 days. And he says, don't buy anything, just look at 100 properties, do your evaluation of each property, write a short blurb about it, why it's good, why it's bad. And it's at the end of 90 days and 100 properties, then you make up your mind if you're going to buy something. He says, if you haven't found one property in 100 deals, you start again. You start again with another 100. And that's why most people are not rich, is they're not willing to go through that process of looking at 100 deals to find one deal. And there's sometimes, and you and I know, you look at a lot of frogs to find one princess. But when you find that one princess, everybody goes, oh, well, how do you get so lucky? Well, I looked at a lot of dirt dogs out there, And that's like anything in life. You don't marry the first man or woman you meet.
hopefully you kiss a couple of them, before you do. My last paycheck, I still remember it clearly. It was one of the worst and the best days of my life. And I was in Puerto Rico. I was working for Xerox, and my boss gave me my last, it wasn't a paycheck, it was a bonus check. I think it was about $30,000. Taxable, it's the only problem with that. So I got this check and I went, holy mackerel. You know what I mean? So I was excited, but I was also disturbed. And so this other guy comes up to me, his name was John, and John says to me, he says, you're gonna be back. I said, why? He says, because you're gonna fail. I looked at him and said, look, few expletive words, because that's what he did. He left Xerox, failed, and he came back. And I said, look, you failed and you came back, but I'm going to fail and I'm never coming back. And that's the attitude. Do you know what I mean? If you say, well, if I fail, I'll go back to mommy and daddy, then that's what you'll do. So if you fail, that's when I became an entrepreneur, because I had no money. I had no money for years. I didn't have a paycheck. But that's what my rich dad encouraged me to do. He says, when you don't have this paycheck, you get hungrier, smarter, and it's a test of your character. Will you become a crook? Will you become dishonest? Will you cheat and steal? Or will you become a better human being? So really, that's the benefit of becoming an entrepreneur, is you really find out who you are when you don't have anything. If you're an entrepreneur and you're going to be a big entrepreneur, leadership skills and communication skills are more important than a law degree. So now I have another book that just came out. It's called The 8 Lessons in Military Leadership. In the military, I went to military academy and all that. From day one, you're learning leadership. Day one at the academy, I have to stand in front of 20, 18-year-old kids and go, section 10, hut. And naturally, they're going to say, screw you, So that's when you learn to be a leader. Now, as you said to me when we first met, the trouble with the military, you got a little rough. So I had a hard time when I came back from Vietnam, and I went to work for Xerox, and people didn't like the idea of calling them an asshole and a fuckhead, stuff like that.
Every other word is a curse word in the military.
Yeah,
it's just an adjective.
Hey, fuckhead, do this. But they don't. I'm going to call the HR person. I better make some changes here. You know what I'm talking about?
Of course I know.
You can't talk straight
No.
in corporate America.
In the military, you can. It's.
You have to.
Yeah, you have
they love it.
Yeah.
You
actually get promotions if you do in the military.
Well, when I got called names, I said, oh, the guy likes me. So that's why for all you guys who are military veterans, you have probably the #1 skill to be an entrepreneur, which is leadership, the ability to listen, to not take it personally, and still get the job done. It is the best training in the world. The saddest thing about leaving the military was leaving the guys behind there. They were some of the best in the world. And they weren't all college graduates. They were just my gunners, my mechanics, all this stuff.
Camaraderie is priceless.
Oh, geez, it's priceless.
Camaraderie is priceless.
And so all I did when I started the Rich Dad Company was to have that same sense of teamwork inside Rich Dad. That's why there's no ranks and all this stuff in this company. Everybody gets to say what they want to say. People are free to do what they want. I stay out of their way, and we get the job done. So the Midas Touch is 5 things you must remember. #1 is the thumb, which is strength of character. You fail, stand up, don't lie, don't cheat, don't just stand up, own it, keep going on. Strength. This is focus, the index finger. This is where I'm going. And I talk about how I went to flight school, preparing to fly in Vietnam. People are shooting at you, you're still got to stay focused on your target, even if you get killed in the process. This one everybody knows. This is what you stand for, So Donald stands for the absolute wealth. And what I stand for is very simple: financial education. Keep it simple, teach people to manage their money. So I stand for that, and I don't ever get off that track. The ring finger is for relationships. If somebody is struggling financially, be it a company, a country, or marriage, it's because you have a bad relationship. And the thing that Donald and I always say is that you can't do a good deal with a bad partner. And God knows I've had some bad partners. And they're just incompetent, but they want to pretend they're smart. And then the little one is a little finger. Every entrepreneur must do something that nobody else does. For example, in the United States, Walmart, their whole system of business is designed to give you the lowest price possible. Everything. Whereas a little mom and pop store, they'll say, well, we put things on sale. That's not the same thing. FedEx says overnight. That was their whole thing. They built the whole company around that little promise. Domino's Pizza in America was pizza in less than 30 minutes. So the entire business was built around one simple little promise. And those are the things that make entrepreneurs extremely rich or extremely poor if they don't have those five.
Is there a time to bail out on a project, though? I mean, when...
I don't that's not in my vocabulary.
Yeah.
Look, I have an unfair advantage, you know. I went to war. And at war, I'm alive because other guys died for me. When you see stuff like that, you know, how can I quit? Most guys are just wimps, pussies, cowards. They don't have it. So they should get a job. A diagram my rich dad showed me when I was a little boy was a diagram known as a cash flow quadrant. And the quadrant is made up of the 4 different people who make up the world of business. So my rich dad said, in the world of business, there's E's. And E's stand for employees. An employee, he says, you can always tell who they are by their core values. And what the employee, whether the president or the janitor of a company, will always say the same words. The words are, I'm looking for a safe, secure job with benefits. That's what makes them an employee, because their core values are security. The other one of the 4 is the S, or the small business owner or the self-employed. And again, their core values will cause them to use the same words, which are, if you want it done right, do it by yourself. S means they're also solo. They're generally one-person act, or they operate by themselves. On the right side of the quadrant are the B's. And what Rich Dad said the B stood for was big business, or like Bill Gates. Forbes defines big business as 500 employees or more. And their words are different. They say, I'm looking for a good system, a good network, and the smartest people I know to help run my business. So they're unlike the S. They don't want to run the company by themselves. They want smart people to run their companies for them. And then the 4th of the quadrant is the I, and I stands for investor. These are people who have money work hard for them. These people are people who have people work hard for them. And these are the people that work hard for the rich here. And the thing of note here is that most people who go to school are programmed for the E and the S side. For example, it was my poor dad who always said to me, son, go to school so you can get a nice, safe, secure job. And so my poor dad wanted me to be an employee. And since the time I was a kid, get a safe, secure job, steady paycheck, and benefits. Okay? I didn't want to be an employee. And I said, Mom and Dad, I want to be a rich man. And I fight with my dad. So my mother finally said, son, if you want to be rich, my mother was a registered nurse. And she said, if you want to be rich, the richest people I know are doctors. So my mom wanted me to come over here, be a specialist or a small business person. I said, there's only one problem with that, Mom. Doctors are really smart. And she says, you got a good point there. I'm not going to be a doctor. So I went to school. I have a Bachelor of Science degree. I can drive ships and I can fly planes. I flew for the Marine Corps. But I've never used any of that education because I wanted to become a business owner. So it was my rich dad who basically said to me, become a business owner and learn to be a professional investor. So one of the big differences here between these people is that it's called taxes. See, in 1943, in the U.S., the federal government passed a law that said employees had to pay tax before they got paid. So when you get your paycheck from your employer, you open it up, and voila, the government's always taken a sizable chunk of it. And the harder you work and the more money you make, the more money they take from you. So that's why it's not that good to be an employee, because you can never get ahead, because the more you work, more money you make, the greater they pay in taxes. Now, the doctors and lawyers and attorneys, accountants were all laughing, saying, oh, these guys, they're getting paying a lot of taxes. So naturally, the federal government changed the laws again. So in 1986 in the U.S., a thing called the 86 Tax Reform Act, and it basically took a lot of the benefits away from people who are self-employed, small business, doctors, and lawyers. So today in America, unfortunately, these guys pay the highest percentage in taxes. It is tragic. And a lot of people think they're investors, but what they're really doing is they're just giving their money to people like mutual funds, companies, and all that. So they're investing, but they're not really investors. See, the big tax breaks are on this side. You know, the laws are pretty tight here, but this area is very, very gray. So by being a business owner on the right-hand side of the quadrant, you can make a lot more money and pay a smaller percentage of taxes legally. And the key word is legally. In the investor quadrant, it is possible to make millions of dollars and pay 0% taxes legally. And so it was my rich dad who said to me, he says, you know, Robert, if you really want to be rich, learn to build businesses. It made more sense to him to work hard to build a business, something you owned and something you could pass on for generation to generation to your kids. Whereas my poor dad said work hard, but my rich dad said, why would you work hard for something you'll never own and you can get fired from right away? Again, that was the difference in values. So my rich dad suggested I learn how to be a business owner and learn how to be an investor. And that's one of the big differences. On this side of the quadrant, these people here work for security. They work for money also. On this side over here, their key value that they want is they want freedom. They don't want to have to work at a job anymore. They don't want to have to work for the rest of their lives. So one of the beauties of business for the 21st century is it allows people to make the transition from the E and the S side to the B side especially. And so you can become a big business owner. And the difference between an S and a B, small business and big business, is most of these guys can't quit working. Most small business owners, if they stop working for more than a month, the business collapses. You know, they don't really have a business. Most of these people own a job. So the beauty of business for the 21st century, it allows these people to make the transition to the B side so that you don't have to keep working hard for money, and the money can actually come in passively. Then once you have your business up and running, then I always recommend you then begin investing with your excess cash, paying less and less in taxes. And that's the reason the rich are getting richer.